Well, 8 employees, 11 months, and a whole lot of lessons that I have learned the very hard way. If you've ever hired someone that you thought was absolutely perfect, only to realize, oh my gosh, this was a huge disaster, then you are definitely in the right place. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on what I've learned about leadership, the mistakes I've made, and there have been some doozies, and how I'm finally stepping into the kind of leader that this particular business actually needs. Because at the end of the day, listen, friend, I'm running a business, not a therapy session. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Clinical Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Rhonda, your no fluff, tell it like it is business bestie for wellness practitioners like you who want to build a practice you love and make a bigger impact and make a little money while you're at it. So if you're ready to ditch the overwhelm, attract your dream patients, and finally run your practice with confidence, you are absolutely in the right place. Each week, we're tackling things from programs to patient retention to marketing strategies that actually work, sprinkled with a little sass, a lot of heart, and the step-by-step strategies that will help you grow. So grab your cup of coffee, your notebook, or whatever keeps you going, and let's build a practice and a life that you've always wanted together. Oh, I never, ever thought in a million years that I would be sitting here at this desk in front of this microphone talking about how I have gone through 8 employees in 11 months, less than a year. But here we are, friend. Here we are. I think I always thought of myself as being a pretty good hirer. Like you just trust your gut. You kind of have a good feeling about people. You kind of have that intuition thing going on, and it's all going to be just fine. Yeah, well, that has not worked out at all. And if you've ever struggled with hiring or firing or figuring out how to be a better leader for your team, you are definitely not alone. I have really struggled this last year. And I think I've mentioned it a few times in the podcast. I thought, I probably should just spill the beans and, come clean. And I'm going to give you my worst hiring, firing traumas. I'm going to tell you all. Because maybe you'll think I'm crazy and that's okay. And maybe you'll find some solace in it. I don't know. But we're going to talk about it. If it's okay, I'm just going to be kind of raw and honest with you. So before I started to hit the record button for this episode, I decided to write down all of them. So I have my list of 8 people right here. And I'm obviously not going to say their names, but I have all 8 of them. And so I'm not going to go through all of them, but the ones that are the most, shall I say, important in their influence on me in the way that I handled it correctly, didn't handle it, what I learned, etc. So I was thinking, if I could go back, what was it that I saw in them when I hired them? So what was the good thing that I saw? I want to acknowledge that I did that part right. I saw the good. And then what were the clues that I maybe would have picked up on that I should have picked up on? Hindsight's 2020, right? So what could I have picked up on? And then how did it go after I hired them? And then what did I learn from the experience? So I was very thoughtful about this as I kind of went back through them. And you should see what I'm looking at. You can't, obviously, especially if you're listening, but I'm sitting at my desk here and there's some mail over here to my right. And I'm thinking about this episode and I know I'm going to record it. There's a couple of envelopes, junk mail. And I thought, let me just do this. I've literally flipped the envelope over and I just started writing down, what did you learn? What did you not learn? So in my computer, I have these 2 envelopes standing vertically, leaning up against my computer screen with the notes that I wrote. So if you're watching on video, you're going to see my eyes darting around because I'm picking out my little bits of notes from the backs of these 2 envelopes. But I want to talk about one person in particular. And this woman, but before I get any further, I need to clarify something. My team that I have I call it the Rhonda Nelson business. So that's like Clinical Business Academy, Clinical Academy, the consultations that I do with practitioners, my practice where I have patients. Those are the team that you all, hopefully you know and love, and they are my rock. They are solid. We have the best team. We get along. We work hard. We know what we're doing. We work for you all. Really, we wake up in the morning and our big purpose in life is to figure out how we can help you move the ball down the field in your business, whether it's clinically, because that's Clinical Academy. That's the monthly membership that has all kinds of clinical information in it, protocols and support and resources and training and lessons and, physiology and strategies, all kinds of things there. So that's the Clinical Academy. That's the clinical side. And then we have Clinical Business Academy, which is the business side of being a clinician. And when my little Rhonda Nelson team, when we wake up in the morning, we're like, yes, we come to work. How can we help our doctors? How can we help these practitioners? It's what we live, breathe, eat every single day. That team, super solid. But most of you know, I also have another business in Seattle, and it's a medical spa. And this is the business I'm talking about today. So don't worry. I have nothing bad to say or anything. Nothing has changed with my staff on my Rhonda Nelson side of the business. This is this medical spa up in Seattle. I have had the worst time. So I'm going to tell you all. You ready? So about a year ago, I had an employee leave, and she left quite abruptly under a not so good circumstance. And it had kind of started evolving when there started to be some entitlement that started to come in. And entitlement is one thing that I have no toleration for. So when this entitlement started to come in, and it was presented to me in a very unkind and a very disrespectful way, basically telling me that I was doing something illegal and that I should have known better and that she expected me to make it right. It was that tone. I thought, this is not the person that I hired. I hired someone who was really outgoing and fun and funny, and I so enjoyed her company. And then somebody got in her ear and started to fill her ear with ideas that I was doing something illegal and a blah, 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 which I was not. It ended up not good. And there were lots of promises. We were in the middle of some, high dollar, high stakes purchases in the business as far as like medical equipment and at her direction. And then all of a sudden the entitlement just kind of kicked in and she just said, and I'm out. Bye. I'm leaving you. So I got this huge, big problem dumped in my lap. So I was hurt because I felt like I didn't expect that from the relationship. So I had to go back when I was doing this exercise for this podcast. I thought, okay, well, I know what I saw when I hired her, loved her personality. Great. Awesome. Were there any clues that I could have picked up on? No, I would have never seen this coming from 1,000 miles away. But afterwards, after she left, I thought, yeah, there were a couple of clues that would have made me think that entitlement could have been an issue, like chip on the shoulder, like, the world is wronging me. And so you need to not wrong me. And I'm going to look at you through that lens. So I thought, okay, fine. I'm going to keep that in mind. So this is like number 1, and I got 7 more to go. So the second one rolls along, and it was basically a hire that was I'm going to just tell you everything. It literally was the hire that was like, oh, well, you'll do, because I was desperate. I had this high expensive medical equipment that I had just purchased, thinking that employee number 1 was going to help me. And then she left abruptly. So I'm thinking, I just have to get somebody to come in and help me run this, do the thing. I've got all this equipment and it's costing me money and I'm not generating any revenue from it. So the day that I posted the ad on Indeed, this woman responds. And I thought, oh, she's got all the qualifications. Great. Come on in. So she comes in. She looks a little crazy in the face. Like her hair is sort of crazy, like crazy eyes, crazy hair, kind of crazy mannerisms. But I was so desperate. I thought, She'll be fine. I'm fine. Great. You got the job. And she had skill in one of the pieces of equipment that I knew the least. So I thought, okay, well, that's good. At least I've got that covered. Oh my gosh. That was a disaster because she literally could not remember how to turn the computer on. So there was that. And then was kind of crazy, like crazy brained. It would say the form would ask for the patient's date of birth and she would write the date. Or it would ask for the name. It would just say name. And she would put her name on a treatment form, not the patient's name. So like kind of ditzy and spacey and all that. But she was so nice. And I just didn't have the heart to let her go and to tell her that she just couldn't cut it. And she was much older, like probably in her I don't know, late 60s maybe, but had tons of experience. I think she had just kind of aged out. And I hate to say that, but I think it was really true. And I just chickened out and I didn't want to let her go. So I just quit giving her hours. And I'm not proud of that. It was really kind of slimy on my part. I didn't have the courageous conversation with her that I needed to have. So that didn't feel very good. And she'd invited some of her friends to come in and have treatments done. And so it was just icky. But I was right in the middle. I was so desperate and I just didn't know. I just didn't do it very good. So the next one comes along. She kind of flew in and flew out. She decided that this wasn't a good job for her. So that was okay. We just kind of mutually agreed it wasn't a good fit. So then here comes the next one. And I thought, okay, I'm going to hire someone younger and I'm going to make sure that they have good experience and can do with, like, they can turn the computer on, they can read, smart, they've got good qualifications, they had hands-on experience in their discipline. And so this girl comes and she seems fine. She's real eager. She's excited. She also had crazy hair, which crazy hair, crazy, like out of control hair. And she was into some things like, I don't know, I'm going to say new agey kinds of things, but things that don't align with me personally. But, I can't be the judge on all that. I'm not the arbiter of that. I know what I believe to be true, but that doesn't mean that everybody's wrong because they don't believe me. I think I'm right, but, somebody else might be right too. So I didn't really use that as much of a benchmark, but it was of note to me. And so we were kind of going along, but I just noticed that she was just kind of lo-de-do-de-doing. She would, like, when we were done in a treatment room, she would clean up the treatment room, but it was just kind of halfway. And then, she would kind of wait for me to say, have you checked the email? Is there anyone that needs to be responded to? If you finish your chart notes, blah, blah, blah. She just was not real passionate. And then one day she lied to me right to my face. And I thought, well, that was kind of abrupt. And I didn't say anything. I confronted it and she denied it. So I had to think about it for a few days. And I came back to her and I said, listen, you did lie to me. No, I didn't. Well, I didn't know that. So it wasn't a lie. And so then I thought, again, I didn't have the conversation that I needed to have. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to kind of watch this a little bit. Well, then it happened again. So I was planning on just firing her. I thought, I'm not going to do what I did the last time, which was the passive, I'm just not going to give you hours business. I thought I'm going to put my big girl pants on and I'm going to have this conversation. And I did. And she broke down in hysterics and started begging for her job back. Please, I really need this job. I really need this job. Well, looking back, she was fired from her last job. Ooh, but I was, again, so desperate. So I just said, it's fine. Like, I'll hire her and it's fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. She just needs a little support. She just needs rough around the edges. And I would use that term. She's a little rough around the edges. Oh, what was I thinking, friend? I was not thinking. So I put her on 2-week probation. I said, you have 2 weeks. And I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking, I have to suffer through this for 2 more weeks. I knew it wasn't a good fit. The very last day of her probation, she didn't show up for work in the morning because they were appointments that she didn't want to do. And she showed up like 10 minutes before the one that she did want to do. She said, I didn't think you wanted me to come in. So we had to do the walk of shame. Like, I had to say, that's it. You're done. I felt like, you're fired. That's it. We're done. This isn't working. Oh my gosh. It was like I had killed her. Like, she had just lost her best friend and dog and parent. It was awful. She's sobbing hysterically. I have to walk her out of the building, lock the door, it was really traumatic. I'm thinking, gosh, this has to get better. Something has to happen. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to hire somebody fresh out of school, freshly licensed. This is great. This young girl, absolutely adorable, tiny little thing, sweetest little voice. Everybody loved her. She got great tips when she did, different services and different treatments on people. Everybody loved her. And I've just found that I really connected with her well. We had a lot to converse about, like life and personal things. And then we did work things together, but she was really great. But I soon learned that she was from a European country. And in that European country, they have very strict rules from the parents to the children. The parents have to approve, and I didn't know this, but the parents have to really, they have a strong say in where their children work, who they work for, et cetera. And I honestly don't know what happened, but somehow I became the bad guy, and I still don't know. And her dad made her quit. And she was really kind about it. She said, "I'll stay and work for 2 weeks. I'm happy to." And I was just devastated. I thought, I have like been so over the top, so nice, like personal, all the things. So looking back, I think I stepped over that line. I got involved, so to speak, just conversationally. I didn't keep it professional. And so I thought, okay, well, that probably was it. That was probably it right there. And then she said to me on the last day before she left, she said, "I really have loved working with you, but there's 10% of the job that I don't like. And I really think I need someone who's just going to be mean to me and just tell me what to do and be not engaged at all. Just tell me what to do, be bossy, and then let me do everything that I like to do." And I'm thinking, sweetie pie, I don't know that you're going to find this kind of job, but okie dokie. So she spent her last 2 weeks here. She left, and I'm kind of like, feel like I got like a shell shock a little bit. Like, what just happened? So then I'm thinking, okay, now I'm going to hire someone who's mature, who's, put together, very professional. We're going to keep it professional. So I tighten up my hiring process. You guys are probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is like Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever that crazy show. This is bad. So I'm trying, like I'm really trying. I'm trying. And so I hire someone very professional. She's tall, very pretty, well-made, makeup beautiful, like very, very professional. And she'd relocated to the Seattle area from the desert and came up here with a new boyfriend. So warning right there. And I knew this, but I wasn't paying attention. Brand new city, brand new boyfriend, brand new job. And it wasn't but a few months, and she kind of had a nervous breakdown. And I thought, okay, so mature and well put together doesn't work if life isn't stable. So I thought, okay. I mean, I've literally like checked off all these boxes. In the meantime, I'm up here trying to like run the business, do all the things, and take care of all of you all, doing all the Rhonda Nelson side of things. And I'm doing this spa thing, the medical spa. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with people? How come I can't find a good person? And then I finally hired someone. I thought, okay, this person, she's going to be perfect. She's single, no kids. She's in her 30s. She's from the area, solid parents, all of that. I don't think I've ever met anybody quite as entitled. In fact, I really liked her in the beginning, when I hired her through the interview process. So I'm thinking, okay, what were some things that I could have looked for? So this last one that I hired was probably the one that brought it all home for me. I think she was kind of the culmination of all the mistakes that I'd made and all of the things that I had learned. And I learned something about myself, and that is that it is in large part my generation. I'm 62. And so I'm at the very tail end of the baby boomers. I'm like 2 years away from the end of the baby boomers. And I realized that entitlement is a deal breaker for me. I won't tolerate it. I don't have the capacity to tolerate it. I also don't tolerate when people don't work hard, because I'm of that generation. We just work hard. We get in, we work hard. And if a boss says, I would like for you to do it this way, and here's why, or not, but here's what we do, here's how we do it. And so here's how you can, continue. I want you to continue to do it that way. And when an employee comes back to me and says, no, I actually have never been told that before, and I'm not going to let you tell me that I have to answer the phone a certain way either. Excuse me, what? Excuse me, what? So that entitlement started to slip in, and the, beauty industry itself is kind of toxic. She was a hard worker, but that entitlement started to slip in. And then one day She came to work with this down, sad face, and she looked at me. I said, how are you? What's going on? You don't seem like yourself today. Is there anything I can help with? And I'm caring. Like I am a carer. I'm a lover of people. I really want to help wherever I can, just like all of you. Like that's what we do. And she looked at me and she said, well, I just don't think this is going to work. We have a bad marriage. I said, what? And that was her way of telling me that she and I were not connecting. It was not working. Like there it was felt really toxic to her. So she left. She literally walked out. I've had 3 of them just walk out. Same day, no notice. And all of them with this little bit of entitlement. And so if I look back and I think about it, I think that there's probably 5 key lessons that I've learned. 5. Number 1 is hiring someone based on gut feeling rather than really looking at their skill. And in Clinical Business Academy, at the time of this recording anyway, we're getting ready to do an activator. And it's a deep dive. And this particular one happens to be about hiring. And that's kind of why this is on my mind. I just finished that activator up, the content for it. And I realized that there's a balance and a balance between hiring based on your gut instinct, but also understanding their skill set and their natural wiring. What are they wired to do naturally? Now, I was kind of hit or miss with the personality tests. I love them. And there are certain ones that I really, really love. But with some of these hires, I just was so desperate. I'm like, oh, fine. I don't need the personality test. It's fine. Or I would get one back and I would think, I don't know. Maybe that's not going to be so good. And then my ever positive, optimistic self says, oh, it'll be fine. We're going to do just fine. We're going to be fine. Clearly, I have not been fine. Like this has not worked out well. So I realized that there's a balance between trusting your gut, but also understanding how someone is wired. They have to be wired for the job and they have to have the skill set for the job. Kind of like the first one I hired where she couldn't even turn a computer on. I just was desperate and needed her. So I'm like, oh yeah, she'll be fine. So that was that lesson. Second lesson is avoiding hard conversations for too long. Nobody likes confrontation. Like if you do, I think you're an anomaly, but no one likes confrontation. We don't like conflict. And I certainly, as a lover of people, I don't want to tell someone they're not doing a good job. And I know there's ways that you can do that and all that, but I've really learned how to embrace the conversation as it needs to happen, not waiting for something to magically fix itself. In other words, overlooking something, that's pretty egregious, in my opinion. You're not going to tell me how to answer the phone. Instead of ignoring that conversation, to right there say, wait a second, let's talk about that for a minute. Last I checked, my name is on the lease and I own the building, the equipment, and I sign your paychecks. And if I need you to do it that way, that's the way we need to do it. That was something I'm learning. I'm learning how to have those harder conversations. It's just not easy because every single time when I didn't have that conversation, they quit. Because I didn't hold them to a standard. And so then there becomes, they get resentful and I'm resentful and then it never works. And they feel the energy and I feel their energy. And then we just in a dumpster fire. The third thing I would say is that I need to be better. And I am now better at keeping it professional and not crossing those boundaries, not asking about home life or asking like, oh, how's your mom doing? Or how's it? No. We're just this is a business. I'm running a business and I know all of these things, but when you're in the thick of it, it's sometimes really hard. It's hard to look at it objectively, I think is what I've learned, because I'm in it so subjectively that I think, well, I care about people. And so I want to help. So if I'm giving them life advice or boyfriend advice or how to have hard conversation advice, but yet I'm not doing that because I've now allowed the relationship to move outside the professional boundary. Does that make sense? I don't want to step in. I'm going to keep it professional. It's a job. You're here for a job. Listen, if they wanted to own their own business, they already would, because us business owners, we're just wired differently. We're wired differently. That's why Most of the world are employees. And then there are the few of us crazy ones that just say, I can't be an employee. I need to be a business owner. I'm wired to do it. So keeping it professional and keeping that kind of that line. And then the last thing was, and I think this was probably the last hire that I did, was just allowing someone to tell me what they will and won't do. That was quite affrontive to me. I would never do that. I didn't expect it. And that was a line that was crossed for me. And sometimes when someone crosses that line, you just all of a sudden, I don't know about you, but like my back, I kind of got the bristles up on my back. And I went, wait a minute. No, what? No, we're not doing that. No, hard no. And so I now, after the last one left, I kind of stopped for a minute and I thought, okay, what all the things that I've learned, what do I need? What do I need for me as a leader, as a boss, as a business owner to have in place in order for me to hire someone that can work for me and help make it successful for them? So what I came down to was 4 simple things. So there were kind of 4 or 5 mistakes, but here are my 4. I had to boil it down. I really had to think about it. Number 1, I am going to be very clear, and I am clear about the outcome I want and expect. There's 2 different things there. I can want something and not get it, but if I expect it, that puts action to it. So I'm clear about the outcome. When I'm clear about the outcome, that means that I have the training materials in place. I'm very clear about the outcome, that you are proficient in this particular skill, or you are able to answer the phone correctly. I know what the outcome is. And then I can say, this is my expectation. If I'm waffly about the outcome, I can't have an expectation. So that's number 1. Number 2 is to give them the training, the tools, and the structure that they need to be successful. It's so easy. I think we all do this. Like, oh, just answer the phone, or, recover the room, get it ready for the next patient, without being clear and giving them what they need in order to do it successfully. That's not fair to them. And it's not fair to me either. So that's number 2. Number 3, keep it professional, period. I'm not going to encroach. I'm just not. This last 11 months has been a painful realization, I think, that because I care, it almost doesn't feel right for me to not have it be personal, because I really do love people and I care and I want to help. But as a business owner and a leader, that's not my job. It's my job as a friend. It's my job, like as your mentor. I can care about you differently because you don't work for me. But when I have an employee, it has to stay professional. That's it. And then the last thing is, give feedback kindly, directly, but do it frequently and early. So let me say that again. Give kind but effective and direct feedback, but do it frequently and often. Basically, I'm going to give more feedback as I go rather than letting things slide. I'm not going to tolerate you telling me what you will and won't do. If I need you here until 5:30, it's not okay that you come in and you say, well, I need to leave at 5:15. No, actually, you have to be here till 5:30 because that's when I need you to be here. I would not have done that before, like a year ago. But boy, I'm doing it now. Let me tell you what, because at the end of the day, the employees are looking at me to be their leader. But what what my heart was wanting to do was to be their equal and still be the boss. And that part didn't work. That doesn't mean that we can't all play on the same team, but somebody's got to be the captain of the team. And I think I was trying to be the captain and the team member all at the same time. And that's what didn't work for me, for my personality. Because leadership, being a leader, a boss, it is not about making sure that they love working here. And that's important, but it's about creating the structure that allows them to succeed. Because when they can succeed at their job, then they'll want to be here. I just had it backwards. I was trying to make them want to work here by being friendly and outgoing and not having those hard conversations. I was trying to create an environment where they wanted to stay rather than creating the structure and an environment to allow them to succeed so that they find personal worth and value in themselves in the environment. Does that make sense? I think this has just been a big therapy session for me talking to you today. I hope you're still listening because thank you. I just therapied myself right into it a little bit more. So I can't bend over backwards and make it okay for them. I just have to I have to say what I need and then give them what they need to succeed. So if you have ever struggled with this, which I imagine that you have, some of you are solo practitioners, I know, and you might say, well, geez, that's why I'm never going to hire. Well, you can't grow if you don't hire. One person can only do so much. You're going to tap out at your, time, basically. But when you hire someone to help you, you can hire that person to do the things that you don't absolutely have to do. And some of the things here in this medical spa, as well as with my Rhonda team, oh my gosh, my ladies, I love them so much. I would do anything for them. They are amazing. So I know how to hire, but my team is a virtual team. Now I have an in-office team in the Seattle business. I'm having to work one-on-one with them. And it's really it's forced me to take a look at how I am behaving with them very differently, how I'm interacting and setting them up for success or not in this like physical brick and mortar environment. So there you have it. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been helpful for you. It has been therapeutic and helpful for me, but we're always learning. We're always growing. We're always, I tell in the Clinical Business Academy, I always say, you are going to build the plane as you fly it. And while you're flying the plane, the wing is going to fall off. It's going to happen. You can't avoid it. But the wing falls off. You're like, oh, crap, I'm in a nosedive. Down you go. And then pretty soon you're in the back, put that thing on autopilot. You're in the back trying to duct tape a new kind of wing on and figure out how you can keep your plane in the air. And I think that's just how we run a business. It's sort of how it works for a while. And I feel like I just keep taping my wings on, but every time I tape my wing on, I'm getting a little stronger and a little smarter. And hopefully, like I have a brand new one now, and she's only worked for me for a week, but I've set this one up very differently. She's my number 8. And I've set it up intentionally very differently this time. So I'll keep you posted. How about that? Phew, that was so much info. But listen, if there is one thing I've learned, it's that leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about learning and adjusting and course correcting and figuring out as you go. And clearly, I have been figuring it out at lightning speed with all of the hiring and firing I've done. And the good news is that my onboarding and offboarding process, super slick. That is a good thing. But listen, if you've ever had a learning experience with someone that you've hired, I really would love to know about it. I think it probably makes me feel like I'm not so crazy and alone out here. But send me an email. You can email me at support@rondanelson.com. That's our main inbox. And I see all of those emails. And tell me about it. Tell me what you did right. But I'd also really love to know, where did you struggle? Where did you get caught? What happened? Did you find yourself or relate to anything that I shared in this episode? I would really love to know. I'd love to hear your stories. And who knows, you might just end up as a guest on the podcast. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm always so honored that you take time to listen to The Clinical Entrepreneur. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, leave a review, all the things, because it really does help us reach more people through the algorithms of this podcast platform. So thank you again. I am so honored to be your fearless, although kind of not fearless leader. Thanks again. Have a great week. I'll see you next week on the podcast.